Matthew Clark, born in South Yorkshire, the captain of Rotherham United, and he makes the walk up the stairs and along the royal box, and Matthew Clark will receive from Jeff Hurst the auto windscreen shield won by Rotherham United. It's taken over 100 years in doing, but they have a trophy to cheer.
Hello, welcome to a very special episode of New York Talk. I have Mick with me again. Hello, Michael.
Yeah, hello. I nearly choked then. I nearly choked myself then. I wasn't expecting you to come to me.
Professional as ever.
Yeah, obviously.
And we are covering the 25 years since the Auto Windscreen Shield final. So we've got a few Rotherham legends on to talk about the run and the final itself. We'll introduce one by one. First of all, Andy Roscoe. Thank you for joining us, Andy.
Okay, good evening, fellas. Nice to see you.
And Trevor Berry as well.
Can you hear me? Have I got a bit of a delay?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's because you're abroad.
Country, you see. I'm in another country. That's what it is.
That's it, yeah. Internet Ireland's a bit slower. And Neil Richardson is also joining as well. Hello,
hey,
Neil.
guys, you well? Everybody well?
Brilliant, thank you very much. We really appreciate you doing this, guys. I say it's 25 years since that run and final. So we're going to go through it. Mick was there. I like to remind everyone Mick was there, so there is pressure on Mick to remember stuff.
Brilliant.
Yes. So we'll start by asking about the cup itself, because we'll start with you, Neil. The cup itself nowadays, whatever it's called, Papa John's, it gets a lot of stick, to be fair, and nobody seems to want to play in it unless they win it. What's a player's view of the tournament back then?
I think it's one of them. It don't really come to life until you start getting like to the quarter-final stages of your northern section. And I think that I would imagine that's the way we were. To be fair, we had one or two games before then, but until we got to like the quarter-finals, and everyone thought, wow, we're not far away from Wembley now. You know what I mean? It became interesting, and the crowds were a lot better then once you got to that stage. The games before them are quite hard to play in because there's very little atmosphere. I pretty much think it's exactly the same now. But you've also now you've got the big boys. You've got their under 21s in them as well, haven't you? So it makes it quite hard.
Yeah, it does. Would you have liked that, Trevor? No, nowadays in the Papa John's, you've got Man City under 21s and Manchester United under 21s and whatever. Was it better as it was, or do you think you'd have fancied playing against them young kids from big boys?
No, I actually preferred it the way it was. I think it gave a lot of clubs that wouldn't necessarily be able to get to a cup final a chance to get to a cup final. So, you know, I agree with what Butch is saying. I mean, we mentioned it off air before it was being recorded. When Ross scored the free kick against Chester, there must have been 100 people there, you know. So at the very start of the competition, yeah, look, I agree, it's not great, but as Butch said, the further you go along and you got a chance to play at Wembley, then it's an important competition. So I preferred it the way it was, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you say, Amanda, with that. I certainly am.
Yeah, you know, it's. I think the boys have touched on it there. You know, it was a chance, you know, to get to Wembley for the teams that wouldn't necessarily get a chance to go and play there. And you have to take it. You know, it's the old cliche: one game at a time. You know, Chester away, Wigan at home, Burnley at home, round robin format to begin with. And I think Archie and John made changes for the Wigan game, which was mentioned earlier off there. And, you know, luckily enough to go through on penalties that night. But as Butch said, you know, it starts getting real once you're in a quarter-final situation. When them words are mentioned, quarter-final, semi-final, it's like, ooh, and all of a sudden, as he said, the crowds pick up. And, you know, there's a real buzz. I felt a buzz. I don't know if the other lads did. The further we were going in this competition, there was a buzz generating around the town. I remember that, and that carried on into the league games. You know, the crowd seemed to be buzzing of a league game as well, and then, you know, it was all midweek for these cup games, which was brilliant. You know, but I totally agree with Neil and Trevor there that the format beforehand was, you know, it was brilliant.
Mick, as somebody who watched it at the time, again, I think we're all in pretty agreement. Mick, I assume you're the same.
Yeah, I am, and as Neil mentioned earlier on, I don't know whether it was during the course of this or when we were talking before, and there are a lot of clubs in League One and League Two, and a lot of players for those clubs who will probably never ever get another opportunity to play at Wembley. And as a footballer, as a professional footballer, as a non-footballer, every boy's dream is to play at Wembley, innit? You know what I mean? And then to put into that mix, you know, I don't know, for sake of argument, you know, the next Sancho or the next, you know, whoever, it's just not fair. I don't think that's fair on the lower league clubs. You know, you've got Chelsea and Man City and all these other clubs who tend, particularly Chelsea, who seem to be hoarding players. You know, they must have a squad of about 500 players, and it's just not right, because it's taken away from the lower league clubs, lower league players and lower league fans, or taking that opportunity away or minimising it. So no, it's not right. But
I think a lot of the lower league fans had never been to Wembley before as well. And I know from like when you speak to the Rotherham fans at the time, they were like absolutely buzzing. They couldn't believe how close they were to Wembley, and it was. I mean, they probably put us under a bit more pressure because they kind of said we want to go for the first time.
Yeah.
And to be fair, we kind of thought ourselves. We thought, do you know what? We want to go for ourselves, obviously, but we also want to go for these guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. It was absolutely huge for the town and the supporters. Obviously, you know, we've all supported the club for all our lives. That's, you know, that's what you do. You pick your club and you stay with it. And our history is not exactly littered with trophies, is it? You know what I mean? It's not littered with a great deal, to be fair. So that was just enormous, absolutely enormous, and what a day, what a day! And then we've been since a few times and been successful, but for me, it's that first time is brilliant, absolutely fantastic.
Right.
It's a special time, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, the club's not being there. You know, they've been lucky enough and very, very well played in playoffs and stuff at Wembley. But it was the fact, it was like, this is a cup, this is a nice bit of silverware that's going to be ours. You know what I mean? It was new. Do you know what I mean? It was new to everyone apart from Gemmo. Do you know what I mean? So you know, the lads were nervous as hell. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, thankfully everything went well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Funny thing about it, actually.
Go, Jeff.
Just mine there when you were talking about that, and it's a bit of inside information, and I think the lads might remember this. We got a win bonus, obviously, for winning that final, but it was the same amount if we would have won the FA Cup, League Cup. Exactly the same way it works.
Well, Boothie would share, what was it, about a fiver?
It was not far off that. Not far off.
We got the same for winning it.
Me and Ross probably drank.
Yeah.
I think me and Ross probably drank it the weekend after.
Oh God.
We got the same for winning it. We got the same for winning it as what Shrewsbury got for getting there. Can you remember, lads? All the they tried to get us new gear and new tracksuits and new trainers and everything like that for the thing, and they got all the wrong sizes and the wrong tracksuits, so we ended up going dressed in our own suits and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. But you remember that, it was like, here we go. We'll all get kitted out here. We'll all look the part, and like, It was as though I had like Butcher's tracksuit on and Butch had Trevor's tracksuit on. And then he just made a decision. Now, come on, like suits, like your own suits. Let's keep it what we've been doing.
This is all very Rotherham United.
Great memory.
They only stopped it because the trainers weren't right. We didn't have enough size, whatever trainer. So everyone couldn't have a pair of Adidas Gazelles. Otherwise, we would have had a tracksuit and would have had the trainers as well. So everything, I don't know where all that kit went. It was probably given away to a local charity or something like that.
Not if Boothie had all to do with it, it wouldn't.
It was crazy. But we got exactly the same money for winning it as what Shrewsbury got for getting in there.
Yeah.
That's mad.
Wasn't about the money. But...
It's not. You're totally right, Ross. You're totally right. But it did help at the time. But you're totally right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No. But it's just weird, isn't it? I mean, if you think about
how
we're
laughing and joking about it because we'd give every penny back just to say that we'd still won it, wouldn't we? But we're having a laugh and a joke about reminiscing about the time, and it's I think we
honestly we
were more than happy. It was a bit of a it was a bit of a nightmare going to Wickham on the Tuesday though after Wembley.
That's right. Yeah,
and we had to go there and get a point, and we did. You know what I mean? A point was sufficient, and we went and got it.
Do you know why we had to? Do you know why that was so important? You remember, Ross? Remember Archie when he had a go at us about because it was Martin O'Neill's team. He went, "Whatever you do, you don't get beat against him." Yeah. He really had a right go at us about this because obviously it's his teammate and all that. He says, "Whatever you do, you don't get beat against this bloke." And like, oh shit, it's like, oh, under pressure again. Like we just recovered from Wembley on the Sunday, and we've got to go Wickham on the Tuesday.
Well, that was Archie all over, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he was always the stick, wasn't he? He was the stick, and John was the carrot. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, if you could take Archie the right way, do you know what I mean? You could get away with certain stuff with him, couldn't you? You know what I mean? He always tested you, and if you broke or you caved in, I don't think you were right for him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Were you there when he had his first game? That after because he was appointed against Birmingham. We played Birmingham on Tuesday night, and
no, I came in on loan, didn't I? So they were already appointed.
That's right. Well,
I'd had a couple of loan spells.
His first game was Birmingham on the Tuesday night, and on the Wednesday morning he set up like a 12-minute run around Houghton Lodge using both pitches. Remember the size of the pitch. And me being me, I was always like just in front of the goalkeepers, but like
you were a brilliant runner.
I was an absolute athlete, Trev. You're right.
Oh, he's muted himself. Neil, you're mute.
He's muted himself. Or did one of you do that? You're on mute.
You're on mute, Neil.
It's a bloody great story when you hear it.
Sorry. He stood on the halfway line, and just as you're coming round, he started walking towards me, and he went, and he said to me, he whispered in my ear, he went, "Are you injured?" I went, "No, Gaffer, I'm all right." He went, "Well, fucking run then." I just went like, you know what I mean? I'm like, sorry for swearing, but I just went. It was all, as Ross said, it was all for reaction. He wanted a reaction out of you, and he got it.
Yeah, definitely wanted the reaction out of you. Do you know what I mean? You can see why them two had played at the highest level. You know what I mean? It was under Cloughie as well. Do you know what I mean? It was the Cloughie mentality that they were trying to get across, I think. Don't you think, lads?
Yeah. He was the best player in five-a-sides, even with trainers on.
Yeah. I loved working under him. I did. Honestly,
brilliant. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
So you would have expected you would have expected him to go on and manage with all due respect at a higher level, to sort of championship and onwards. that's what I anticipated would happen to it. You know, Rotherham just being a sort of stepping stone, if you like. But that never happened, did it? Or
no, it didn't. No, it didn't. Didn't it? John dabbled a bit, didn't he? John had a couple of appointments here and there and stayed in the game, but never higher, I don't think. Do you know what I mean? It was, which was, you know, surprising to say the least for the two of them.
Very much so. Very much so.
We'll bring it back to the early stages. I'll just for any that don't sort of know about the run, I'll go through the run and up to the quarterfinals, and we'll sort of start there. It was I would mention a round robin, so we had a group of Chester and Burnley. We beat Chester with an Andy Roscoe free kick, and if you want to see it, you can see it on YouTube. It is up on there for everybody to go and see.
Selling copies of it if you want it.
Draw against Burnley, 1-1 draw, and then a 0-0 against Wigan, where we ended up winning 4-1 on penalties. Did any of you boys take any of the penalties in that 4-1 shootout?
No, I didn't play. I was left out, and I think he made a couple of other changes as well, which was. And you know, because I was totally expecting to play, and I think he left 3 or 4 of us out. I can't remember the actual lineup, but we were in the stands watching that night. I know I was.
I don't even know if I was there at the club. Seriously,
I'm right in here.
Have a look. See if I was there. I can't remember it. I can't remember the Wigan game.
It's that Irish air that you're breathing, Trevor. It's gone straight to your head.
No. Apparently, Neil, you came on as a sub in that Wigan game.
I must have changed the game then.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, we winning then. We ended up drawing, so I must have changed the game.
Matt, were those games played quite early on?
I shall have a look. I think no. That game was in November. 28th of November was the Wigan game.
I must have been
last
completely
16. Yeah, you did play in the early games. The first game you played was the quarterfinal, where all 3 of you started.
Oh, typical Trev, the glory hunter, come when it's near the end. Typical glory hunter.
Yeah, we're all changed. I don't recognise the style up against the Wigan game. I don't mention all changes. Muggleton in goal. Smith, Hurst, Garner, Monington, Blades, Hayward, McGlashan, Jeffrey, Gota. Oh, Trevor Berry, you did start. Sorry.
Oh, did I?
You did play. Yeah.
I honestly don't remember that game. I don't.
Oh, classic, Trevor, classic.
I know, classic, isn't it? Oh.
Trevor's thinking he came in the August, and the final was in April.
Moving on to the quarterfinals then. 3-1 home win against Lincoln. Sean Goodwin with 2 goals. Trevor, you did definitely play this because you scored in this one. If you remember this one,
yeah,
good. Okay, yeah. So this is when it started getting serious, Trevor. Is that when you sort of thought we're within touching distance of a monumental achievement?
Yeah, it was actually. It's probably one of my better games since I joined, because I come on loan originally and then I signed. And I do remember that game being like it was a bit of a stepping stone for me in the way that I played, because I went on to have quite a good season that year. I think I ended up with 12 goals that season, my best scoring season. But yeah, it was, and there was quite a few people. It seemed that the atmosphere was very good at that game as well, if I remember.
Yeah, I remember the atmosphere, Trev. It was lively. It was lively that night.
Yeah, graphically, mate, there's not a lot of difference between the two towns. Like, so it's a bit of a local derby, so you're always going to get a decent atmosphere there. But it was a good atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the semi-final. These quarterfinals and semi-finals, Neil. 3-1 win against Lincoln, 4-1 win against York. They look on paper. They look pretty comfortable. Were they comfortable?
I don't think a game is ever easy. To be fair, I just think it was. I just thought we did what we had to do, and we did it well, and we did it better than the opposition. The teams that played both games played ever so well, and we were organised, and we got goals at good times. And I think that is so important in cup games.
Yeah, the York game. I remember the York game because it was. I remember that seemed to be it was less stressful, even though it was at an area semi-final, than like what the quarterfinals was against Lincoln. And we played well. You know, when we scored goals, we always threatened to score.
Who scored all the goals? Who scored all the goals in that game?
I think I might have scored that night. I can't remember.
I've got a problem where a bit of my paper's cut out, and that's where a lot of the information is. And for some reason, there's not much record of this for some reason on the internet. Mick, you probably went to this game. Can you help us out at all?
No, I can't help you. I don't even know we played York, to be perfectly honest.
I think
until I read your notes.
I think
was it when Bobby scored after 35 seconds, was it?
Is that when I got a hat trick then? Is that one?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one, yeah.
It's that memorable. It's been erased from everywhere.
I can tell you, Sean Goodwin got the fourth, and then he got off it, unfortunately.
You know, all joking aside, it's quite a competition that's dear to my heart because I had, like, you know, from a personal point of view, I played quite well in all the games that I played there. I'd either, you know, set a goal up or, you know, been involved in a goal, scored a goal. So it was a bit of a purple patch for me, personally. And as I say, you know, we always felt as though we could score, and then, you know, the addition of Gemmill that came in, then you know, Nigel had come in, and you know, he was always a goal threat. Gemmill, you just needed to get the ball to him.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what he did do as well, Ross. He certainly made the card schools more interesting. They became
league.
More interesting, didn't they?
Out of our league.
Yeah, way out of our league.
Yeah, what happened with just sticking with a pound? Huh? I actually just saying that you mentioned Sean Goodwin. That's one thing that when I first come into the club, I was surprised how good that man was. He was a great player. Raggy was brilliant.
Yeah, he was.
He was injury prone, wasn't
he? Yeah. Yeah.
To be fair, Trev, he should have gone before then. And with all due respect to the club, he was ready to go. When I first started in '89, I know Liverpool were interested, and there was a big interest in that. And he could have easily gone then. Everton were interested, and looking around the division, he would have been 20, 21. It would have been absolutely perfect to go there and then. He had so much time ahead of him. He should have gone there and then. But I think the loyalty to his hometown club and the fact that the club wanted more money than people were offering as well stopped him from going, really.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because, as you say, he could have gone on to much bigger and better things, couldn't he? Really, he certainly had that talent. From
a personal point of view, he should have gone. Really, he really should have gone because he was good enough to go. He was good enough to go.
Rotherham's game, though, for a selfish club point of view, it helped us in certainly this room I mentioned. Yeah. Then the two big games before the biggest. Start with the area final first leg at Millmore. Sean Goethe and yourself, Neil, taking a penalty. I'm going to start asking by a centre-back taking a penalty, or a defender taking it. It's very, very rare. But it was a very, very coolly taken penalty. Again, I was slightly before my time. Were you the penalty taker or a penalty taker?
I think.
I'll actually answer this one for Butch.
Go on then, mate.
Because it's difficult, but I'll answer. He had some. I mean, Roscoe, no, his strike was unbelievable. Like he was on. You know, I know when Tomo come later on, but he could take free kicks as well, and he could drill the ball. His strike was phenomenal. It doesn't matter where he was playing. You know. Now he did beat when he turned, but he had some strike.
By the way, Trevor, it took you all the way to the halfway line before you actually caught me up after I did score, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I must have been that quick.
That is the quickest. That is the quickest I've seen you move, Mr. Richardson.
I was absolutely cream cracking after that. I couldn't move after that. I was as stiff as
and we were like a pride of lions trying to bring a giraffe down, trying to jump on you.
Did you not have to wrench the ball out of Nigel Jemson's hands to take that penalty?
Well, I think from what I can remember, I think we'd missed a couple before that, and that was the reason why it got to the stragglers at the back. Like, to be fair, and sometimes it's a case of who volunteers to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, when Gemmo come, Gemmo wanted to take it, but it had already been agreed that I was going to take it.
Yeah.
But I will guarantee now, if we got one at Wembley, Gemmo would have took it.
Yeah.
I guarantee now he would have had that ball and took it, and I've no problem with that. You know what I mean? I volunteer to do it, and it's a great memory for me. To be fair, as we said earlier, I don't think we played that well, really, did we? For 60, 70 minutes, we were very average, and we scored 2 late goals.
Yeah, we were very average, but managed to get a 2-0 win and, keep a clean sheet, more importantly, because Carlisle were a decent team. I think David Reeves was playing for them then, wasn't he, up front? Yeah. And, they'd splashed a load of cash on him. Do you know what I mean? They had a bit of money to splash around Carlisle over numerous years. Yeah. So when we got them, and obviously we got the 2-0 win, and obviously we're all elated, we're all jumping around, we're all excited. And as Butch mentioned off mic earlier, Mervyn Day in his interview saying, it'll be a totally different game when they come up to our place. They're jumping around as though they've won it. They're going to be in for it. They'll be in for a shock when they come to our place. And we weren't in for a shock because we played better.
To be fair, first off, I remember it. First off, it was the coldest night I've ever been. I'm born in the north, and it's the coldest I've ever been. It was absolutely freezing. But first off, I thought we were absolutely superb.
It was icy, wasn't it? There was an icy crust on the top of the pitch. You wouldn't get played now. That it'd get called off.
But to be fair, Ross, can you remember how many away fans went? On a freezing cold night. I think it was a Tuesday night, was it? It was a Tuesday or Wednesday night, I can't remember. Yeah. Freezing cold night, and you're talking about 150 mile.
Yeah.
And there was thousands of Rotherham fans, and we couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
We just couldn't believe it.
Can you remember that, Trevor? Had you signed by then?
I remember that. Like I said off air, I played centre midfield that game because one of the boys were, I think it was Garnes, I think it was Darren Garner that was injured. So, and I quite like playing centre midfield. To be honest, I was one of them. I play up front, left wing, right wing, but I did enjoy that game. I know Gemmo got the 2, didn't he, in there as well?
Yeah.
I can remember at half time.
I can remember
at half time.
I'm looking at a photo of that day, and I've got my arm in the air in front of the goal with his second one, because I'm running for the rebound. It's just up on the wall there.
I can remember half time because when you go to Carlisle in the dressing rooms, you go past the home dressing room, don't you? And as we're going past the home dressing room, that one of their coaches, I don't know whether it was Joe Joyce or Mervyn Day, is having a right pop at their players, saying, "You've just thrown them the tie. You've just given them the tie. You've made it so easy for them." And I thought that was a bit disrespectful, to be fair, because I thought we played really, really well and we deserved what we got.
We beat them
4-0.
Absolutely.
They were excellent goals as well. I mean, going back to the first leg, the first goal from Sean Gutter was an excellent bit of skill to finish that off. And then the 2 goals in the second leg, both set up by you, Andy, were just the finishes were sort of almost what you expect, but the counter attack was quality.
Yeah. We broke quick, and we broke well, we broke quick, and everyone knew you know, where everyone was going to be at any given point in that attack. You know what I mean? We could attack through the middle, we could go down the sides, and we just knew you get that ball in the danger area, and one of the attacking four will be there, hopefully. And, you know, Gemmill was there twice. I think the second one took a bit of deflection, and, you know, he doesn't like admitting it when you tell him. But I don't care. I don't care if it came off his heel, this, that, the other. It ended up in the back of the net and give us, you know, a comfortable lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you just start dreaming, I suppose. How early were the goals? I don't have the minutes. Was it first half? You went 2-0 up.
Yeah, both first half goals.
First half.
And what I assume 4-0 up. You are just sort of seeing the game out to the end.
You can't, because, you know, people think, you know, you're 2-0 up, you know, you can't, you know, it before they scored, they come at us like a train, if I remember rightly, and we defended really, really well, solid as a unit, because we don't have to go and expand early in the game, because we, you know, we're 2-0 up. And as you said earlier, you know, the counter-attacking goals that night, I think, caught them cold.
Yeah, because you were under the cosh from the start, really. And as you say, Andy, defensively, you're outstanding. And Matt Clark had a really good game as well. Pulled off some really quite crucial saves. But then you just hit him on the break, and that was it. They were done.
Well, that was it. The whole complex and the whole face of the game changed after we were 2-0 up. It sort of took the wind out of their sails. And as Neil's saying there, I don't remember that in the tunnel, but little things like that have not helped them. You know, if their gaffer's having a right pop at them at half time, you know, they're deflated, which, you know, it's not easy to sit back on a lead. You can't. And I don't think we were ever that type of team. We always scored goals. We were always like quite, you know, attack minded.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that.
I honestly don't think Archie would have let us do it though, Ross. I don't think Archie would. No. I think if we say, for example, if the game had finished 2-2 and we'd lost the second half, Archie would have had a right go at us after the game, saying that's not professional enough. And we knew that. And we knew that. So we thought, no, hold on. If we have to win 2-0, we'll win 2-0. That's good enough for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to go through the tie 4-0, for me, just shows how dominant we were.
Yeah, I agree, mate.
I mean, I actually remember David Reeves. I actually remember David Reeves talking to me and saying, "Oh, just let us score one." I'm like, no chance. I can't do it. It's not natural, is it? It's not natural to just let someone score in a game when you've been in the game so long. You know what I mean? It's just not natural to do, and I wasn't going to do it there and then.
No.
Yeah. I remember the one thing I do remember about that game is I was absolutely shattered afterwards. Really, like absolutely shattered. The running I did, I hardly touched the ball if I remember rightly, but it was doggies. Honestly, it was the defensive side of it that I couldn't wait to get back to the wing the following week. I tell you.
It's interesting you talk about that half-time chat there. We just recently spoke to Carrie Arneson and Ben Pringle, specifically about the playoff final at Wembley when they were 2-0 down at half-time against Leyton Orient. And both of them said individually that one of the things that set them apart in that second half was not Steve Evans going off on one at half-time, but as they're coming off for the after the half-time whistle, the Leyton Orient players were basically talking about where they were going to going out celebrating that night for the victory. And that sort of spurred them on. They both said it individually, you know, that one, they both picked that bit out as being the motivation for improving and you know, sort of coming out in the second half with a completely different attitude.
I think, Nick, to be honest, mate, I think football has a habit of biting you in the backside if you slack off. With all due respect, we were like three lower league players. We weren't the very top level. We couldn't just turn it on. We had to play full tilt every single day.
Yeah.
We just couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. We weren't. I hope I'm not doing the other two guys a disservice here, but we just weren't good enough to do that. We had to play full tilt, whether it was training, and especially in the games, and we just couldn't turn it on like that. So at 2-0, people always used to say, "Oh, it's a dangerous lead," and it can be, because once momentum changes, it's very, very hard to turn it back.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Mick saying, I once said 2-0's a dangerous score, and he laughed me out at stadium, Mick.
Yeah, but that's because we were 2-0 up, and I was trying to be positive, mate. I'm just trying to keep you, positive frame of mind.
What another game that I think it was that season, or it could have been the season after. I think it was the season after, because Alan Neil was at the club. We were 5-1 up against Hull. I don't know whether you remember this, lads. We were 5-1 up against Hull. And they got it back to 5-4. I think Lynn Snodden scored a goal. And their crowd
Hodges, was it Glyn Hodges?
Glyn Hodges, sorry, yeah.
Held one in the top corner, didn't he?
And their crowd was singing, "We're going to win 6-5." And I remember Alan Neil turning to me and said, "Do you know what? I think they're right." I said her half.
Trev, can you remember Gloves that day?
Yeah, he got 4, didn't he?
Remember, Gloves is at the top of the pitch, going mad at the defenders because he scored 4 and didn't want to lose the game. He said, "Well, you're a defender, what?" He's having the right pop at us, like saying, "I'm doing my job," type thing. "You do your job." I'm like, "Oh, cheers, Gloves."
I do remember that.
That's the kind of thing that momentum does, though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's a crazy thing, momentum. It can have such a huge impact in football, in sport in general. To be fair.
Yeah.
There was a month between that final, area final, to the actual final. That month in between, Trevor, is it difficult to concentrate on the league games? You're sort of thinking, I'm going to Wembley in a month. Do you know how do you approach that month in the league as a player?
No, do you know what? For me, it wasn't, because it was my first. I was still only 30 professional games in my career at that time. And so every game for me was great. Playing in front of a crowd was still relatively new for me. So it wasn't that hard. And when I look back on my career, that was probably my best season, because I had that adrenaline every game, and the fact that I was playing in front of a crowd. So for me, no, it wasn't. The week leading up to it, the buzz around. I lived in Wickersley at the time, and the buzz around the whole town it got to me leading up to it. And I think Ross said it earlier, in walking out that tunnel, oh Jesus, I tell you, that was nerve-wracking. I have to admit, it was nerve-wracking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something there, Trevor.
Go ahead.
I remember the month leading up to it, because I think that's where I got a lot of respect from John and Archie, because I was actually injured. And my knee was shot. Like I was ready to have an operation, and John and Archie basically said to me, "Look, you pick and choose your games as long as you're fit for Wembley." And they made me feel $1 million, to be fair, because they made it sound as if they wanted me to play at Wembley, and that's why, going back to what Ross said before, that they were the type of people you wanted to do it for. They had the respect in the game for what they'd done, because they'd done masses in the game. But they kind of came down to our level, and they really looked after me before the game. So I missed the Shrewsbury game before we actually played them at Wembley. I picked and shoot. I had to pick and shoot because my knee would just swell up after games. And I think out of probably about 6 games before Wembley, I only played about 3 of them. I think 2 or 3 of them.
I think that was right, Neil. Remember that.
My knee was shot.
But from my point of view, from that month running in to that final, Archie and John were very, very good in keeping you guessing whether you're in, whether you're out, whether you're playing, how they spoke to you, how they ignored you. Could believe it or not. If you were injured, you wouldn't see them, they wouldn't speak to you, and they'd tell you why. They'd say, "You're injured. You're no good to me at the minute. Get fit."
Okay.
They were very black and white, weren't they?
Yeah.
They're never near the treatment room. They left that to the physio. When you're fit and you're out training, that's when you're useful to me. So injured players are no good to me. We were like, well, that's very black and white. That's very cluffy. Very cluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good to know where you stand in it. You know, the worst thing is with managers who sort of try and play games and stuff. If you know where you are, you know where you are, don't you?
Well, that's it. Well, that's the flip side to that. That's the flip side to that. You knew exactly where you stood with the pair of them.
Yeah.
Because they tell you to your face, and they tell you in front of your teammates. So you know, you were a group. You were a group of people who were all there for that. The 11 that went out on that Saturday was all for that one cause: go and get a result. And everybody knew. You know what I mean? Everyone was equal.
A proud moment for Matthew Clark, born in South Yorkshire, the captain of Rotherham United, and he makes the walk up the stairs and along the royal box. And Matthew Clark will receive from Jeff Hurst the Auto Windscreen Shield, won by Rotherham United. It's taken over 100 years in doing, but they have a trophy to cheer.